Okay, we're live. Hey, welcome, penny stock billionaires. So today we're going to be looking at really one of the big problems in the penny stock world. You have these like fugazi type of companies. You have pump and dumps. You have all sorts of scams. But the problem is this: the problem is they are legal scams. They do this legally. This is a big problem especially in Canada, in Vancouver, Scamcouver, as we call it, which is the capital of these basically legalized ways to fleece investors like you. Now, you got a choice, my friends. You could either get scammed, you can lose all your money, or you can make 10 times, even 100 times your money with cheap penny stocks. How? You got to get this book, 10 Bagger Blueprint. And we talk about some of these scams out there that you got to avoid. We're going to be analyzing one of them today, which is NowVertical. Now, I'm not saying it's a fraud. I'm not saying this is a fraud. It could be. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not an auditor. I haven't done, channel checks, etc. We don't know. Um, what I am saying is I don't even know how to describe it. Well, here's what I would call the stock. Again, in my book, this is the type of stock. It's called a fake it till you make it. I talk about the different categories of penny stocks. What's a fake it till you make it? You want to ask. So it's a stock where you have some promoter CEOs, whatever you want to call them. They get it. They realize, hey, here's a market theme, or here's kind of an opportunity. Let's kind of slap a bunch of shit together, promote it, and hopefully it works out. Hopefully the stock runs up, and then we can blow out our shares and move on to the next deal. This happens all the time, right? Now, this company is actually quite interesting. Essentially, they're doing a roll up in the ostensibly they're doing a roll up in, I don't know, data, SaaS, basically, random software what they're doing is they're acquiring these kind of random B2B software companies, right? Now, uh, generally speaking, these companies usually trade at pretty high multiples if they have anything going on. How is Now Vertical able to buy these things theoretically cheap? Because these things basically there's a reason, right? I mean, look, the smartest people in the world, right? The smartest people in the world are in the tech space and the SaaS space. Okay, you're competing against super sharp people, so you better have an edge. Now, um, in my opinion, this company, the management, they don't have that edge. They don't have the experience in that space. If you look at their backgrounds, yeah, they did some ad sales bullshit, whatever. Nobody in that business has any and that company, I should say, has any real experience in that space. So it's a little bit of a skeptical story. Now, here's the thing, right? So when you're doing these roll-ups, right, the theory is this. The theory is you buy a company at five times five. Let's call it, I don't know. Let's call it three times revenues, right? A private company, but as a public company, it could be worth seven or even 10 times revenues in theory, right? In a good market. I mean, we're getting multiple compressions now. We're in a bear market, so valuations are coming down. But basically, it's an arbitrage, right? You're buying these companies private. As a public company, it's worth double or even triple that amount, right? So the idea is you buy one, now the value of your stock goes up, right? So you parlay that. You buy the next deal. Now the value of your stock, in theory, goes up again. So essentially you're using your stock to make these acquisitions, and every time you do it, in theory, it's additive, right? Because it's a pyramid scheme. Okay, it's a legalized pyramid scheme. I call it a Ponzi scheme, pyramid. I don't know what the difference is, a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. I mean, it's basically the same idea, right? Everything works great when the stock is going up. So in order to make the Ponzi or the pyramid or the roll up work, you need to really have, I talk about this in the book, you got to have a 100 baggers type CEO. You got to have a guy who really knows they got to execute, right? At top of their game, right? Not a guy who plays golf during the week, during market hours, like this guy. By the way, I talk about this again in the book. If you guys read the book, you would have. I mean, I wrote this book months before this whole thing happened. I mean, this tells you the truth in advance. This book, if you read this book, you would have avoided massive losses in the stock. But the bottom line is, the 100 bagger CEO has a couple of qualities. Number one is the guy obviously has to execute, right? Number two is they got to promote the stock. They really need to have a really innate understanding of how to really promote a stock. This guy obviously doesn't understand how to promote a stock. He doesn't see the value. It's completely out of his. This guy is a lost cause. The CEO of this company. I've had conversations with him. The guy's a clown, right? Again, that's my opinion. My opinion. Maybe he's a genius of some sorts, which I haven't figured out. But the problem is this: the guy obviously does not know how to promote. You can see because they're not doing it, and the choices they've made is he hired this guy Greasy George from Agoracom. That did nothing. The stock went down. So here's the thing. You need to make these things work. You got to, number one is you got to execute. You got to buy the right companies. You got to integrate. You got to have integration of these roll-ups. You can't just buy companies. You got to integrate them into the whole company. It's a lot of work. It's not an easy thing, right? And then you got to promote the stock so that you got to keep the stock constantly going. You need the stock to be rising. You got to constantly promote the story in order to make the pyramid work, right? Because you're using the shares to make acquisitions. The stock is basically your currency. I mean, the growth of your company, the future of your company, when you're doing roll-ups like these guys are doing, is completely 100% dependent on your stock price, right? Apparently, this guy doesn't get it. That's why this company is failing. And I told you about this about a month ago. I did a video. Check it out on the we got the video here on the Penny Stock Billionaire Gang channel, and we talk about this type of exactly what the issue there was. And there you go. What happened? Why is the stock crashing now? Why is the stock crashing? Because he's doing a raise, right? The company's raising money. It's a dilutive raise. While the stock is in a downtrend. So it's going really into a death spiral because they need to constantly raise money to make more acquisitions, right? Or they got to make them with their stock, but the stock is going down, right? What that means is every subsequent acquisition or any type of raise is going to be lower and lower and lower and lower. So it's a death spiral. It's like a death. It's going down and down. Every time you're doing a deal, it's at a lower price, which begins. It's basically I don't know, how do you pull out of a death spiral like this? It's very challenging. It's very challenging because once the death spiral starts, especially in a company like this, it's a problem. Because here's the thing. The thing is this: the good news is they have basically a business. They have a real business, right? Which they have, they're generating revenues. They have P&L. Apparently they're losing money, but whatever. But the bad news is they have a real business. So it's not a concept stock, right? They have a real business. Those where you have real multiples. And the problem is you're going to get the market values those things based on, multiples, and the multiples are coming down in the market. Valuations are coming down in that tech sector. At the same time, here is the bad news. If you're doing these roll-ups, right? If you're doing an M&A strategy, I don't care how good you are, at some point, some of these deals are going to blow up, right? By the way, blow up in a bad way, not in the good way like the kids say blow up. Like, no, I mean like bad way, like implode, right? Even the very best M&A practitioners, they have deals that fail. Now, I would say again, I don't know 100% their team. I'm just saying kind of my guess based on, again, they call me the $1 trillion man because I've created over $1 trillion in wealth for investors in 25 years of my career, helping investors like you discover stocks like these that you see at the bottom of the screen that have gone up 10x to 100x even, right? By the way, press the like and subscribe button or the dislike and subscribe button, whatever you want to do. But the thing is this, my friends, the thing is that my intuition, kind of based on my kind of understanding the situation, like these guys are kind of, they're not the worst. I don't think they're the worst. They're for sure not the best. It's kind of like a mediocre group, kind of hustlers, right? Your typical scam Coover type hustlers who try to do a roll up. So again, I'm not saying it's a scam. I don't think there's any kind of like, I think the guys are trying to make it work. They're just not super competent, as we're seeing, right? We're seeing it happen before our eyes. Because if these guys were competent, they would have been promoting the stock the proper way. They would have been engaging with investors, but we've seen kind of the opposite of this, right? We've seen bad decision after bad decision, guys playing golf during the week. That's not, it's just not how you do the business, right? So I think essentially a top practitioner in M&A, they're going to have a couple of blow-ups, but a guy who's kind of mediocre, I would say 40% of their deals are going to blow up, right? Either they did bad due diligence when they bought them. Something is going to go wrong. They're going to have integration problems. Something will go wrong. It always happens, right? And usually those things are kind of uncovered. It's like a time bomb, right? Whenever you make these acquisitions, you get about probably, 6-9 months before, it's kind of like you realize, oh shit, this is like, because these things, like some of them are running on fumes or whatever, right? So there's going to be we're going to start to see some of the first deals that they started doing last year. We're going to see them to start blowing up this year, right? Probably the next 6 months, we're going to start to see write-downs. We're going to start to see all sorts of failures. And I'm expecting probably, you can expect that 40% of their deals will fail, right? They're going to be written down. And then again, that pushes the death spiral even further because, drags the stock down. Now, how do they make acquisitions? With a cheaper stock, you have more and more and more dilution, right? And by the way, one of the big things investors talk about is dilution. When is it a problem? I have another video on this. Again, if you read my book, 10 Bagger Blueprint, #1 bestseller on Amazon, it'll tell you when dilution is a problem. Dilution is not a problem when you have a stock which has great promotion, where a stock is going up, you got positive news flow, there's upward momentum. Company can raise money, no problem. I mean, you can't raise a tremendous amount without having an impact, but you can raise. It might slow you down a little bit, but it'll bounce back if you're doing the right stuff, right? Dilution is a big problem when the company has no promotion, no market support, and you're in this kind of negative market. So basically, we're seeing this right now. So the company did a raise, stock got knocked down 25% today. I think, look, I think this thing is probably going to go to, it might bottom out between 15, 25 cents, maybe even less. Probably in somewhere in that range. I could see this easily being a 15, 20 cent stock. Again, you would know this if you read the 10 Bagger Blueprint. So let me just run this thing back here again. So a couple things happen. Number one is you got the dilution. You got, you got potential blow-ups happening with the M&A. Now, again, that hasn't happened yet. We're going to see that's 6 months, 9, could be 6 months down the road. I mean, that's been pushed under the carpet, the potential blow-ups that they're going to have. The issue is right now is the death spiral because of the financing. Now you're going to have, they're not going to be able to do more deals. The thing starts to basically unravel. Again, why do Ponzi schemes go bust? They don't go bust in bull markets. Ponzi schemes always unravel in down markets, right? When things are going in a downtrend, all of a sudden the Ponzi scheme falls apart because you got to give people back their money at lower and lower. You got to raise more money to give back. You get caught up in that death spiral. So same thing kind of in these type of situations when you're doing a roll-up and your stock is going down. So if you have a smart CEO, the 100-bagger type CEO, they would promote the stock. This guy obviously is he's very similar to sort of like this Jay Hutton from Visby, unfortunately. We're both actually, in theory, great, potentially great stories, bad management. Now, in the case of Visby, I don't know. I was hoping that the investors, shareholders could put some pressure on the board to, either get Jay Hutton to change his ways or get rid of him. Again, my goal is to create value. Now, you want to ask, one of the questions people ask is, why are you doing this? Why are you being negative? Why are you doing these types of videos? Why are you bad mouthing stocks? Well, I'm doing it for two reasons. One is, it's for educational purposes. I want to give people a case study, right? Not only do I want to, I wrote this book because, again, when I introduce companies that are potential next super stocks, potential 10 baggers, 100 baggers, investors need to know. I want investors to be educated. Again, the better informed, the better educated an investor is, that's, the better shareholder they are for the kind of companies that I am promoting, right? Again, my goal is to make stocks go up. That's what companies hire me for, right? The flip side of that is you need to know when a stock is no good, right? Or when to sell a stock. And, we're seeing a case study of this. Now, there's another reason, which where I'm doing kind of these negative things. I'll talk about it later, but there's a strategic reason why I'm doing these things also. I'm not going to mention it now because um, yeah, I'm not going to mention it now. I'll mention it some other time. But there is a rhyme and a reason why these things need to be done, and we need to uncover these kind of scams. And by the way, another thing is you got to realize uh, this thing is listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, right? Which I call the Toronto Scam Exchange, and it's for a reason. The Toronto Scam Exchange is really a terrible place to be listed. It's a nightmare. It decreases a company's value. Wow, it's snowing here. Unbelievable. It is snowing. Um, I'm looking out the window and this is amazing. Okay. Here is the problem, my friends. You want to be listed on an exchange which creates value. Let's say NASDAQ. Okay. You can't be on NASDAQ. Okay. You're on OTC. Let's say you're a Canadian company. Okay. You're on the CSE. No problem. Here's what happens when you get into the TSX. It's basically, think of the worst parts about Canada, right? Again, I'm not, when I talk about Canada, a lot of it is a joke, but some of it is true. You realize that Canada is basically, it's a nanny state, right? You have the worst of kind of the left wing people who want to control every element of your life, and that's really the TSX. It's run by a bunch of bureaucrats who are corrupt. I believe some of them are. This is going to sound like a conspiracy theory, but there is an element of truth. They're actually Chinese spies. Why would now? It sounds crazy, right? Why would they be Chinese spies? Think of it. The TSX, right? First of all, there's a lot of Chinese in Canada. The Chinese government sees Canada, the resources. They want to have a foothold on the North American continent. On the American border. Canada is rich in resources. China needs resources. Canada also TSX. That is really the market for most resource companies. Now, if the Chinese government can somehow control or manipulate the resource markets, it's very beneficial for them. That's why they're in Africa. That's why they're going after the battery metals, all that stuff, strategic metals, all that. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. I have very good. Should I say evidence? Yeah, that there are actually Chinese agents working at the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now, the problem with TSX is that they get, like every time you want to make any type of business decision, you got to get approval from these guys for every little thing. And, these are bureaucrats. They don't know anything about business, right? They don't know anything about stocks in reality. They're basically just bureaucrats who are there for, to milk this company, get a pension and have a secure life. That's their goal. And what they do is they get in the way of every decision a company makes. So essentially they slow down a company's growth. And in fact, I'm going to do a video later on, is they actually interfere in companies in many, many ways, in a very negative way, They've actually destroyed companies. So any CEO that, if you're thinking about which exchange to list on, whatever, if you're thinking about listing on the TSX, you might as well take out a gun, put it to your head, and just blow your brains out, because you're basically committing suicide. Any CEO that voluntarily lists on the TSX Venture, TSX, is committing suicide. You're basically, destroying your company. If you want to be on a Canadian exchange, go on the CSE, no problem. You go on the NASDAQ, go on the OTC. Nothing wrong with the CSE. It's a great exchange. And by the way, the whole thing about the TSX, it's more prestigious. It's not. It's a bullshit exchange. Nobody cares. Okay, every company we've seen that, uplisted in theory to the TSX, they've all gone downhill. All of them have gone downhill, because the TSX, basically, it's like they smother companies' growth. All the stuff that they're a bunch of hypocrites and scammers. That's the management of the Toronto Exchange, the CEO, the Chinese agents involved, and all that stuff. But back to that, getting back into the now situation. So this company, people think, it's a legitimate company. It's on the TSX. It's not. It's basically it's just another shitco penny stock, which is starting to unravel as we're seeing. And I want to make one other point. Is this now you have a lot of these grifter boiler room, Muppet boiler room channels on Discord. You have these pump and dump channels out there that are pumping these stocks. Again, you have this Gerbil of Oakville, Stock Fam, whatever. You have Stock Avengers, all these Penny Queen, all these different guys. Although I don't think Penny Queen is paid. I don't think she's pumping this stuff. But you have all these Discord. I'm just talking about the ones I know about. There's like 4 I know about. There's a million of them out there. Now, a lot of these guys are basically stock promoters, right? They're getting paid by the company under the table a lot of times. They're not disclosing it, or they're buying up shares to pump up so that they could dump it. And one of these grifters is this gerbil of Oakville, who his big claim to fame is, oh, he talks about the financials. Oh, he does due diligence. Let me tell you what, and his big thing is, oh, the financials, the fins. Let me tell you something. To analyze a penny stock, you don't need to know anything about financials. I talk about this in my book, in 10 Bagger Blueprint. Financials mean absolutely nothing. They mean less than nothing. What matters is the quality of the CEO, the business model. Those are the things that matter, the story and the quality of the CEO. By quality of the CEO, is he promoting the stock? Does he understand that he needs to get the stock moving? Does he execute? Does he know how to run the business? Does he know how to run a business? Very few of these penny stock guys actually know how to run a business. It's shocking. The financials mean nothing because companies can manipulate financials. We've seen all sorts of scams. Now, if you want to do real due diligence, if you claim to be a real due diligence guy, call up the company's customers. Do real investigative due diligence, a channel check, right? That's what analysts do. They call up customers. They say, hey, are you buying from the company? Are you renewing? They actually call customers. They call the customers of those customers. Yeah, they do a lot of real legitimate investigation. Simply looking at a financial statement, that's like being an armchair analyst. That's how you end up with these. That's how these guys get taken to the cleaners. Okay, so that's why I don't pay any attention to financials. I barely ever read. I might glance at a financial statement just to make sure it's not too crazy. But the reality is this: most penny stocks, the opportunity is there because the financial statement looks like crap, right? That's why the opportunity is there. That's why stock is cheap. If it was, a pristine, incredible statement with 30% EBITDA, whatever it is, you wouldn't be getting the stock cheap, right? So we want things which have been priced far below where they should be, right? So it could be discount, but we're buying things at deep discount. Let me see what my notes here. Yeah, that's all I have to tell you. So this stock, let me just pull it up again. Let me just pull up this piece of shit stock. Again, I told you guys that this thing was going to collapse around 75 cents. Here we are, and we're only 30%. It's only 35% down. It's not a big drop. I think ultimately it's going to be probably 15, 20 cents, and it's going to stay there. This is not something which is going to, go. This is a value trap. This is a stock that's a value trap. It's going to go into 15, maybe even less, and it's just gonna like grind there forever. And at some point, it's just gonna I don't know, who knows what's gonna happen. But bottom line is, this is a piece of shit, and you'd have known it's a piece of shit if you would have read 10 Bagger Blueprint. Again, you got a choice. Either you can get rich with stocks go up 10x to 100x, like I've brought you in the last 20 months, or you can ignore the information in here, and you're going to keep getting scammed with stocks like NowVertical, others, and we got a couple of others. By the way, the other scam stocks out there are Fobi on the venture, also Toronto Venture Exchange, and the Versus, which is an AI, a Fugazi AI. It's not. There's no AI there. Again, do your channel checks, do your real due diligence, and you'll see what contracts are real, which ones are exaggerated, and all that good stuff. All three of those stocks, whether it's Fobi, whether it's Verse, whether it's NowVertical, I think they're all going to be significantly lower in the coming months. Now is definitely, this one is melting down. In the case of Fobi, that's got a cult following. You got a bunch of morons. You got all these pump and dump channels that are still pumping it. At some point, it's going to implode again. And the same thing is going to happen with Verse. Now, that one has a bunch of fraudulent promotion going on. That's right. Illegal fraudulent. That's right. Stock fraud involved in that company because you have promoters who are getting paid who are not disclosing that they're getting paid. So that is securities fraud. Apparently this company is allowing it to happen. It's their responsibility, right? The BCSC, the Canadian government thing there, the BCSC, supposedly they're there to protect the investors. Apparently, they have very selective policies about which, maybe they're on the payroll. I don't know. Maybe they're getting paid off. Look, the reality is this. There's a lot of corruption that goes on. So I would not be surprised if there are payoffs going on with some of these regulators and some of these promoters. I would not be shocked at all. I guarantee you will see that showing up very, very soon. Anyway, guys, bottom line is you got to be really, really careful when it comes to these stocks, especially companies doing roll-ups, because in order to have a roll-up succeed, again, like this company, the reason why this stock is failing is because you got a CEO that does not know what they're doing. And again, if you read the book 10 Bagger Blueprint, my bestseller on Amazon, you would understand the correct mentality of the person, what would need to be done, all that good stuff. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.